Welcome, everybody, to the Premium Art podcast. And today I have a very special guest with me, Elijah Desmond. Welcome, Elijah. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. And Elijah needs no introduction. Right now, he's working as a CEO and founder of Dental Page Brokerage, and he's been known as a DJ Smiles. He's been known for his work with the Smiles at Sea. And before I go any further, I would like Elijah to start with where his journey started and tell us about what he's doing right now. Yes, Elijah.
Uh, yeah, absolutely. So I was raised at a big farm in Ohio, and then I went to my dad's every other weekend and had fun in the city of Canton, Ohio. I graduated from the Ohio State University and went to school for hygiene. Graduated from hygiene school and moved to the beautiful islands of Hawaii. In Hawaii, I realized within 9 months that I needed to own my own business, and I was better to be a business owner than an employee. And my mind just was thinking so crazily with all of these different ideas. I had to get out of the operatory. Um, I ended up stopping practicing in around 2012, which is about 2.5 years later. And I'll tell you, I never looked back. um, I've just created multiple businesses. I've started about 20 businesses. It's important to know that of those 20, I didn't succeed on all those. Towards the beginning, I was failing, and I had failed on since I started about seven different businesses. But I'll tell you, those are the biggest learning opportunities. And then I have successfully exited now seven or eight businesses, and now I own two businesses left. A entrepreneur mastermind for dental entrepreneurs that service dentists, and then I also own a national sell-side brokerage firm.
So all of those businesses were in the dental niche, or were they like, wait, were they diverse?
They're actually all in the dental niche.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. So how did you come into the dental niche? Where did it start?
Yeah, well, my aunt is a dental hygienist, my uncle's a dentist, and my mom had worked for about 25 years in the dental practice. I was raised in a big farm and used to really hard laborious work. Not that being a dental hygienist isn't hard work, but it's not hard work compared to being out on the farm, right? And
Yeah.
I decided I wanted to work in air conditioning. However, I did go into dental hygiene with the intention of coming out and doing something more than hygiene. I wanted to start businesses, and that's exactly what I did.
And which of these 20 plus businesses that you started have you really fell in love with? I mean, which one of these would you say was the highlight of what you've done so far?
It's a loaded question, but I will tell you, you can have more than one love. So
Yeah.
I'm going to narrow it to two specific ones. So my first love in business was Smiles at Sea, and Smiles at Sea was so different and unique. People thought I was crazy for it. Like, how are you going to go on vacation and go and get your continuing education and have the time of your life? And how are you going to do so where it's a tax write-off and you can do it with your team so they stay?
Hmm.
So, that one was definitely my first love. Um, and the reason why it was my first love though is because like not only did I get paid for doing what I absolutely love to do, which is go on vacation and go cruises, but I also got to get to hang out with literally some of the most influential people in our industry of all generations. And it put me in a unique position where I just had these deep relationships because I was sending them on vacation and then spending it with them. So that was really like the start of everything. I love vacation, I love music, and I love people. And there's nothing more than I love than bringing people together for, introductions and continuing education. So, anyways, that was my first love. And that's what got me started. However, I sold Smiles at Sea actually in June. And I sold it to an amazing new owner, Dr. Devin Geeson, one of my good friends. And I actually still remain going to all of the cruises. And I just have to go and DJ and hang out with everybody. So, so anyhow, that's been my first love. And the second love is what I'm doing right now. It's very straightforward. Dentists that want to sell their practice. I speak to them, 3 to 5 years prior to them selling, prepare them for their practice sale, and then make them have the biggest transaction of their life, which is the sale of their dental practice, and potentially real estate as well. And we do it in a very unique way than the rest of the industry in the brokerage space, which is pretty cool. So that's very out of the box.
Yeah. So, yeah, coming to the dental pace brokerage, tell me a little about how the process works. How do the doctors come to you? What are the bottlenecks that you identify? What are the most common challenges that you've seen so far with practices that are willing to scale and then eventually sell?
Yeah, so first off, the way they come to me is from referral partners. Because of Smiles at Sea and all of the people that I got to know and all of the influential people, I got to build those relationships. And while my bank account may not be as big as some people's, my relationship bank account is bigger than most people's, most rooms full of people. And so we scaled it just from referral. We told everybody, like, hey, this is what we're doing. And we grew it, I should say, just through our referral partners. We get about 50 inbound dentists calling us per month. And these dentists are calling us because they're interested in selling. And then we don't like push them to sell. Instead, we advise them on here's where you're at, here's where you should be to sell, etc. And so, um, anyways, that's what we do, and that's what makes us different.
So, Elijah, that brings me to my next question. What do you think are the early warning signs for a practice owner who's going into a forced sale versus a strategic one? How do you think they should position their practice?
Well, it actually depends on the practice themselves. And by the way, you did ask me a question about what did I see was wrong going into these practices, and what are they doing wrong? What's a bad opportunity? And I can go touch on that in a minute. But actually, if it's okay, I'm going to touch on that one right now.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yep. So the issues that I see with practices is practices are number one, they're not running on a high EBITDA margin. So a lot of practices are just paying bills and running the business, but they don't realize that if they just tightened up a little bit and had somebody advise them on maybe 4 or 5 levers they could pull to maximize their EBITDA, all they really have to do that as a rolling 12 months. And if we could tighten you up $100,000, $150,000 that last year, that means that your EBITDA is going to grow. By say 100,000 is going to get you a $500,000 in a sale,
Yeah,
right? For just $100,000. And so, that is something I see is them coming with their margins not right. The next thing I see that is really, it's actually sad is they built these amazing practices too big. And because they built the practice, when I say too big, they built a $2 million practice and they want to sell to a private practice dentist.
yeah,
It's too big to sell to a private practice dentist at that point. I mean, rare, but the banks are just not loaning, student loans, new houses and cars. And then all of a sudden you want to stack on top of that a dental practice. There's no way that $2 million is going to get financed. It's, I would say 1.2, maximum 1.5, but really 1.2 is where it kind of caps at for a private practice dentist. So the dentist build it too much. It's a huge issue. Next is they build it too much and they only have 4 operatories. So it's really 5 operatories or more is when you can start having, business deals and talkings. But if you only build it to 4 operatories and you max it out, it's going to be very difficult to sell. Also, if you have 4 operatories and you don't max it out, it's still going to be difficult to sell. No,
absolutely.
the only one you're going to sell to is a private practice to dentist, doctor to doctor, and that works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. So I see that happening more than anything. And the last thing, before I forget, dentists call too late, and this translates to your question, I think. Dentists call too late. They call when they're done and they're fed up and they're burnt out,
Hmm.
and they say they want out then. And really, they should have called 5 years ahead of time, and potentially three. But ultimately, dentists need to start calling like us right away. Like stop what you're doing. These calls are free. You can get free advisory work to prepare yourself for 3 years from now or five, or you may not even know it and realize you need 3 to 5 years. And you say, I'm retiring in 5 years. It is the perfect time to sell. And maybe we tighten up your numbers for 12 months first and then you sell, but it's the perfect time to sell at 3 to 5 years out. And it's sad to really see, offices have to close because they're just not viable, practices because they haven't had proper advisory coming up to the point where they want to sell.
Yeah. Absolutely. Great advice, Elijah. And picking on what you said in your, just in your discussion right now, what are the five levers that you think that dental practice owners, whether they're single or multi-location owners, should focus on when they're starting out? Not when they're halfway in and, like you said, when they're burnt out, but what are the five levers that you touch point on that they really need to, build on and focus on and monitor, as you may call it?
Absolutely. First lever to maximize, I would say, by far, if you are in network and you're in it with insurances, you need insurance negotiation.
Yeah.
And insurance negotiation can take, what you're doing and overall, on average, the current company that goes in collections for a company that does take insurance is a network. They are increasing collections alone by minimum 7 to 12%. So let's just call it 10%. So that means every $1 million practice could benefit around $100,000 from insurance negotiation. And oh, by the way, 100,000 times five or times six or times seven, that's getting you half of a million, 600,000, 700,000 more when you sell. That is an absolute game changer. And a
Mm.
lot of people don't realize that it is. But at the end of the day, if you could do something that's smaller like that, comes out to a really big deal. So that's lever number one. Lever number two, there is a company that is called Aligned Payments, and Aligned Payments puts all the payments onto the patient, which is legal. Before you couldn't pay patients when could shouldn't pay the merchant terminal fee. Now you can, and so that alone right there is saving the dental practices 3 to 4% of their of for merchant terminals. And so every $1 million ringing is 30 to 40 thousand dollars
Mm.
that the office is charging. Well, guess what? If you can get me with an office 12 months ahead of time, and if you can allow me to run this one method, one thing, right, is $40,000 at a five, call it six times EBITDA. That's $250,000 in your pocket. That is a huge deal. So that's lever number two, and it's to me, it's really straightforward. It really
Absolutely.
is.
Yeah.
Um, level number level number three, supply company. Getting your supplies at what they say that they're supposed to be. There's another way around it. There is something that is called DSO pricing, and that
Yeah.
means that when you purchase something in bulk, okay, you get a massive discount. Okay, it's very straightforward. But I'm going to tell you, there are many distributors out there, right? One of them is a company that's called Monster Dental, and there are many others out there. But one of them, you basically can get so much less discounts. Like, let me just give you an example. You can shave off, say, 2 or 3%, right? 2 or 3%. It might not seem like a lot, but it adds up. 2 or 3%. If you have, let's just say you're running supplies at 10%, 10% of a million, right? 10% of a million is 100,000. So 3%, that's like 30,000.
Mm.
You know? So 30,000 times a six times multiple. I just put $180,000, almost $200,000 in your pocket. I mean, right now, whoever's listening to this podcast, I can tell you my address so you can mail me my check for that. Right. But I mean, I'm literally putting money in people's pockets. Right.
Yeah.
So next thing, let's talk about lever number four. This is a magical lever. I love it. It's so easy. It's labs. I'm going to tell you that there are many ceramists out there that are amazing. There are many labs out there that are amazing. You are going with your same lab because you're comfortable.
Yeah.
switch and go talk to a couple of different labs, right? A Peak is a lab that I recommend, but let's just make an example. Whatever you're paying for your crown, let's just say you are saving $100 on a crown, right? And a lot of crowns are a couple $100, and so say you save $100 per crown and you do 20 crowns in a month. You probably do more, but you do 20 crowns a month. That's 2,000. If you do 30 crowns a month, that's almost 3,000. So if you can save $3,000 a month, a t doing the same thing you're already doing. No, you're cutting your expenses. 3,000 times 36, we'll call it times five. 100, run another 150 to $180,000. What? You get that more on your sale of your practice. I literally, I mean, pretty soon we're going to get to $1 million.
Hmm.
So like those right there are super easy strategies, but there's more. Um, there's AI out there that doesn't make it to where you're having to hire more people. And I'm going to tell you, one out of every three patients realistically has a treatment plan still. You say you have this high close rate, but look, majority of the time, there's going to be one out of every three treatment plans closed. Well, there's an AI, it's called Codent, and it doesn't, no monthly fee, which is crazy. One of their limited partners is the founder of ChatGPT. And they basically send a text message after reading all the patient notes, every bit of patient notes. They send a text message and to the patient and talk with them very intelligently, get them to get them to agree to treatment on top of that, which is amazing. And they only charge 10% of what they collect. That is so low hanging fruit. In fact, that recently helped me with the doctor. He had to have a good month in his last month. The doctor got $60,000 more in treatment in that month, and it helped close his sale.
That's
So those are
awesome. Yeah.
those are five of the many things.
And these look like common sense to somebody who's already in the game, but I mean, these are the things that many people out there don't know, and they're just leaving such a big amount of money on the table just because they're not able to negotiate the terms with the insurance providers or get a good deal on their supplies or have a better terms with the labs. So thank you so much. I think these are good. These are the golden nuggets that I'm sure my audience are really going to take advantage of. So, Elijah, I know you're in a rush. I had a loaded questions for you, but I'm just gonna
I have 10 more minutes.
All right. So my next one is probably also going to help the buyers out there a lot. And from a buyer's perspective, how much do you think does it matter where revenue is coming from? What is the production mix? What is the acquisition engine like? What is the operational capacity compared to what the margins are?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll start by saying all DSOs are different. So if you've seen one DSO, you've seen one DSO. So I'll start with that. If you have a company that's like Heartland, I believe they want their hygiene to be around 20%, 25%, right? But you can find DSOs that are like, oh my goodness, you have very low percentage, 5%, 10%. And they look at that as like, this is an opportunity for growth, right? So it really goes all the way from one extreme to the next. Generally, you want to see healthy hygiene numbers. I'll tell you what you don't want to see. It takes your buyer pool. Like our buyer pool, we have around 100 strong, sophisticated group and DSO buyers. Then we have hundreds of private practice dentists. But I would say that the buyer pool is looking not to have one thing. What do I mean by that? If you have if you only have implants, that's all you're pushing through. It makes it to where you have a very little chance of selling. Why? Compared to all the offices, it narrows your opportunities down to like 10 or less if you're only doing implants. So make sure that you're having general dentistry in there and then also hygiene as well. And hygiene is one of the easiest things that you can add into an implant center. I mean,
Mm,
hygiene, I've spoken about 50 cities for Straumann. And, listen, there's implant maintenance. It's a big course I used to give. There's no reason why you shouldn't be getting your patients back in. And that's going to give the companies that are interested in buying, give them more opportunity for consistent revenue.
absolutely. Elijah, another thing that comes to my mind from hearing this is that When you look at buyers, how do you think they're evaluating how replaceable the original dentist owner is? And what are the operational patterns that let them, that tell them that an organization or a practice cannot run without that person? That it's dependent on the owner primarily.
That is called key man risk. And key man risk is a real thing. If you are the sole producer and in that practice and and you're producing a decent amount, what I mean by decent amount, $1 million more or even less, really, and you're the only person that is a risk. It's called key man risk. That means that if you decide to quit dentistry or if you exit, you go and you get hit by a car, they have no production, they have no collection there, and that is a major risk factor that you face. And so it's very good to get associates in there, so it's spread, the risk is spread, and so that way that the associates are working the business, and it's not only you, it's a big risk. So I've seen people EBITDA, the one man show, as high as 3 million. I know that's crazy, but implant center, but as high as 3 million. And guess what? Where you would have thought that they probably could sell for, let's just call it a 7 minimum, but up to maybe a 8.5 times multiple. They were only able to pull a 6 times multiple and not get all of that money offered up front when they sold. They had to get 60%. Why? Very risky. So that will
Yeah.
bring your multiple way down, and it's super risky. And so having with this one thing, I would never recommend. It's sellable, but the
Hmm.
buyer pool shrinks.
Yeah. And my last question, Elijah, is that what would you recommend to somebody who has those margins? Do you recommend them to sell it to a group, or do you recommend them to think about scaling up and opening multiple locations instead?
I think that the person that is potentially selling or ready to scale, right? They're towards the end, they've perfected. They need to call a broker, right? They
Hmm.
can call me or anyone else that does advisory work, and I would ask them, "What is your end goal?
Hmm.
What do you want to do?" I would highly recommend they talk to a wealth advisor. My favorite one is Tim McNeely. Um, a wealth advisor is actually going to tell you if you have a wealth gap or not, because
Hmm.
if you're going to sell, if you want to sell to a private dentist, you're going to have to, most of the time you're going to be done in 6 months. No more income, right?
Hmm.
And then if you want to sell to a DSO, you have to know how much money do you need to make along that journey in the next 3 to 5 years, so that way you don't have to work anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so it's important to just talk to somebody when you get to that point. Decide if you do want to scale, are your systems and processes in place? If your
Hmm.
SOPs are in place and it allows you just to go and rinse and repeat, do it again, and it's not based on you, why not? But do a business that's not based off, do a dental practice that's not based on you, meaning you have associates, associate run. Do
Hmm.
that before you and establish it, and
Hmm.
maybe it's take a couple steps back financially. But do that before you go to a second location, because I'm going to tell you, running a practice on your own is different than managing one that you're not running, and it's
Yeah.
hard to be two places at one time. So that's the advice that I will get on that. But the biggest thing, the number one takeaway is, look, that was 5 examples, right? There's really way more examples of way to grow your EBITDA and prepare. Focus on your bottom line, right? But just call, pick up the phone. Conversations are free. Advisory work is actually a lot more fun than brokering the deal, right? We take all the stress off of them.
Yeah.
Going back and forth and multiple deals, and we have in-person events where we'll bring 10 buyers at one time to shorten the time, right? And you know, you got to call and talk to discuss those things way before you're ready. So, like, if you are listening to this podcast, that means that there's a small part of you that thinks that you want to sell. Pick up the phone. Conversations are free and they're fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Elijah. This conversation was everything that I imagined it to be and more. There was so much that we covered, and there's still a lot that I would have loved to cover, but I know that you're short on time, and hopefully we're gonna catch up sometime soon and do a sequel on this and talk a lot more about what systems should be in place and what the doctors need to start building on before they think about taking it to the next level. But thank you for taking the time out, and it was lovely having you here.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.